Hello, this is Mrs. Raro, and I am here to teach you how to use the Pythagorean theorem. So this theorem is used if you have a right triangle and you're looking for a third side, all right? So we use this theorem called Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So A here represents a side of the triangle, B here also represents another side of the triangle, while C very specifically represents the hypotenuse of that triangle. Okay, so let's begin. In this lesson, you will also need a calculator handy, okay? All right, so here it's asking you to find the length of the third side, and if necessary, round to the nearest tenth. Here is a triangle, very specifically it is right, and also that you're given two sides of the triangle. So you can find the third side by applying the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. First, let's identify the sides that are given to us. 25 is considered your hypotenuse, so this I'm going to label it as C. 7 here is one of the sides, so I will say 7 is A. It doesn't matter if you say this is A or this is B. All right, as long as you label one A and then the other one B. Okay, so this side that's unknown, this is B. All right, so now I'm going to plug in my numbers. So we know that A is equal to 7, so this is 7 squared. Plus, we don't know what B is, so I'm just going to leave it as B squared. Equals, we know C is 25, so this is going to be 25 squared. Okay, and again, this is why you probably most likely need the calculator. So 7 squared is equal to 49, and then plus, we still don't know what B is, so I'm going to leave it as B squared, and equals 25 squared is 625, okay? And now, in order for you to find out what B is, you're going to need to bring down B squared first, and then subtract 49 from both sides. Okay, so now when you subtract 49 from both sides, what you get is equivalent to 576. All right, now let me clarify, this is not B, this is B squared. So to undo B squared, so to just get B by itself, to get rid of the squared, you have to take the square root of both sides. All right, so you have to take the square root of 576. So whatever the square root of 576 is, that is equal to what B is, right? So again, take out your calculator if you have it, and then the square root of 576 is 24. So B is equal to 24. All right, so that is how you use the Pythagorean theorem. All right, let me give you a couple of examples. All right, so again, why don't you pause this video and see if you could do this by yourself. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. So here we have to identify that this is a right triangle. Two sides are given to us. So in order for us to find the third side, we apply the Pythagorean theorem, right? And again, it only works with right triangles. So I know what's given to me is the hypotenuse. I'm going to label that one C. One of the sides is given to me, so I'm going to label that one A. And again, same idea. You know what? Let's do B here. So I'm going to just tell you that it comes out to the same thing. So let's say this is B, and then say the missing side is A. All right? So here we have A is just A squared plus B squared. B is 24, so I'm going to put 24 squared equals C, which is 30 squared. All right? We're going to evaluate what 24 squared is. You can use a calculator for this point for this part. So this is 576, and then equals 30 squared is 900. All right, and again at this point, I'm going to figure out what A is. So I'm going to take out the 576 by subtraction. All right, so 900 minus 576 is equivalent to 324. All right, and that becomes A squared. All right, again, we're still not finished. Once you have this number, 324, we take the square root of both sides. And now we get what the value of A is. So you find out what the square root of 324 is, and that is equivalent to 18. So A is equal to 18. All right, very easy so far, I hope. Okay, so now let's take a look at a third example. Let's see if you could do this one by yourself. Okay, so let's begin. All right, same idea. We use the same formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So now let's see what's given to us. So 9 here is our hypotenuse, and it's not always the case that the hypotenuse is given to you, just these examples. All right, and then this is one of your sides, so I'll label that one A. All right, so this is a squared, which is 5. All right, so this is 5 squared, and we've got plus b squared, which is not known, and then we have equals c squared, which is 9 squared. Okay, same idea. I'm going to figure out what 5 squared is, which is 25. All right, plus b squared, we don't know, and then equals 81. Then we subtract 25 from both sides. All right, so 81 minus 25 is 56. And same idea. We don't know 56. All right, so we don't know what b is yet. We know what b squared is, right? So to get the b by itself, you have to take the square root of 56. Okay, now at this point, you want to take the square root of 56, and it's not a perfect square, so you're going to have to round it. Okay, so rounded by, so when you take the square root of 56, it would tell you what place value to round it, so it says nearest 10th. All right, so it's going to be 7.5, and that's your final answer. Okay, all right, cool. We can also use the Pythagorean theorem even if there is no diagram, right? So it says here one of the legs of a right triangle measures 14 centimeters and then the other leg measures 5 centimeters. So you want to draw out a right triangle such like, do you have a right angle right here, okay? And then it says find the measure of the hypotenuse. So we are given the measure of one side, which is 14. So let's say this is 14, and we're given the other side, which is 5. Oops, let's use a different color. Whoopsies. So now we have 5 centimeters. And now we want to look for the measure of the hypotenuse, which is C. So we don't know that. So again, it's a right triangle, very specific. They gave you two sides, so you can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right, so a here is 14. So this is 14 squared, and then plus b here is 5, so this is 5 squared, equals c squared, which we don't know. Okay? All right, so we're going to take 14 squared, which becomes 196, and then we have plus 5 squared, which is 25. Wait one second. Okay, so plus 25. All right, now we don't know what c squared is. So this is 196 plus 25 is 221 is equal to c squared. And same idea, if you want to find out what c is, you have to take the square root of both sides. All right, and the 21 is not a perfect square, so we're going to get a decimal, so we're going to need to round it to the nearest tenth. So c is equal to the square root of 221, which is approximately 14.9. So that is your final answer. Okay? All right. Another use of the Pythagorean theorem is to use them in a word problem, right? So this is a word problem. It says if you place a 13-foot ladder against the top of a 12-foot building, then how many feet will the bottom of the ladder be from the bottom of the building? So this is an example at which we have a building, okay, and then there's a ladder, okay, and then so we know that this ladder is 13 feet, okay, and then it's being placed against the top of a 12-foot building, so we know that this side of the building is 12 feet. And then it's asking you how many feet will the bottom of the ladder be from the bottom of the building. So it's asking for the length between the building and the bottom of the ladder. So we don't know what this is. So if you can recognize this area, this looks like a right triangle, right? And exactly what it is, in this right triangle, you're given two sides. If you're given two sides, you could definitely find the third side by Pythagorean theorem as well. You can also use trigonometry, but you can definitely use Pythagorean theorem as well. So this is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Here in this diagram, the hypotenuse is 13. So I'm going to just label that as 13 squared. And then here, one of the sides is 12. So one of these has to be 12. All right, so now I'm going to figure out what the missing part is, which I'm going to label as b. All right, so now we're going to identify what 12 squared is, which is 144. And then we have b squared, which is what we're trying to look for. And then c squared, which is 13 squared, is 169, okay? All right, so to find out what b squared is, we need to take away 144 from 169, all right, which becomes 25. Let me just write 25 here. Okay, so that becomes 25. And now when you take the square root of both sides, you will get the value of b, which is 5. So it is 5 feet away. Okay, that is one way to solve a word problem using Pythagorean theorem. Okay, all right, here's another word problem. So why don't you try and draw this out and then see if you could do this by yourself. Okay, so it's talking about a certain television. So here's a TV, and they always do this as well when they measure out TV's diagonal lengths. So it says a certain television is advertised as 37 inches diagonal. So every time it's advertised as 37-inch TV, the diagonal length is 37, not the width. Okay, so we know that this diagonal length is 37 inches, right? And you guessed it, it becomes a right triangle. And then if the width of the TV is 12 inches, so it's talking about how wide it is. So this is 12 inches. And then it says how many inches tall is the TV? So how tall, what is the height of this, right? So again, same idea. This is a right triangle in which two sides are given to us. So therefore, we can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared, okay? In here, 37 is our hypotenuse. So I'm going to replace it with c. And then one of the sides is 12 inches, and we're looking for one of these. So again, I'm going to label a as 12 inches. So that's 12 squared. And then we don't know what b squared is, so I'm going to label that as just b squared. Oops, let's use blue. Okay, so here we have the missing part, which is b here. All right, so same idea. 12 squared becomes 144. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so we have plus b squared, and then equals 37 squared, which ends up being 1,369. Okay, now we're going to subtract 144 from 1,369. And now we have b squared is equal to, let me do just that, is 1,225. And same final thing, we need to take the square root of both sides. So b is equal to the square root of 1,225 is 35. So b is equal to 35. So this is 35 inches high. Okay, and that is it. Thank you for watching.